Zen at the Sharp End. Welcome to the podcast about how to turn difficult people and relationships into your best teachers. I'm Mark Westmackett, a Zen Buddhist teacher, mindfulness teacher, and ex-professional astronomer. This is a podcast to go along with my latest book, Zen and the Art of Dealing with Difficult People, which is out now and available to order in all the usual places. In each episode, we'll be exploring different varieties of people, relationships, and situations that we find irritating, difficult, or painful. Together with a number of Zen friends, I'll be discussing how the practices of Buddhism and mindfulness can help us see our difficult people as troublesome Buddhas, our greatest teachers. This podcast is sponsored by Zen Minded, an online lifestyle store offering you the very best in Japanese craft, incense, and other Zen-inspired home goods. Check it out at www.zenminded.uk. Welcome, Shinkai. Thank you so much for being willing to come on the podcast today.
Thanks, Mark. It's great to be here.
Well, let's start off. Tell us a little bit about your background and what got you into Zen and...
Yeah, so I think, I've definitely had some influences, like from early on up until, and as the years have gone by. But I think, like when I feel into what really, like the earliest seeds of what kind of brought me on this path. When I was a kid, when I was pretty young, I really had like a fear of dying and kind of getting sick. Like sometimes when I would get sick when I was young, I would get really anxious about like what was going to happen to me. Was I going to was I going to be okay? And like kind of worried if I was gonna die, what would happen. And my mom was always so really so nurturing to me there. And she would tell me, relax like a loose rubber band, really just relax your body, it's okay. Sometimes I would have difficulty breathing because of like the fear and the that kind of stuff. So I think that kind of that was pretty early on in my life, and that kind of stayed with me as I kind of went into middle school and high school and then into college. And then I kind of developed, I started getting into like some of the East Asian spiritual tradition stuff when I was in college. So like reading books, I took a really good class called Religions of the East. And so learning about like Taoism and Hinduism and Buddhism. And at that point, I was really, a couple of one friend in particular was really into going to Japan to teach English. And I kind of, he didn't wind up going, but that really like excited me too. So there's those things. And then there was this kind of undercurrent of like searching or still having these issues or these questions about like getting like what if I got sick or what if I died, like these more existential things. So after college I went immediately, I got into this program in Japan called the JET program, and so I was able to teach English in some of the schools out there. And I went out there with this sense of like kind of trying to find myself. I mean, I went out there to kind of get away and to create some space. I think between my family, my friends, my typical life, and also to make some money to teach. And then there was that sense of, well, gosh, it would be nice to really explore some of the spiritual stuff out there. And then when I got out there, I during I think the second year of the teaching, I started going to some of these Zen monasteries around. I was in Gifu, based in Gifu, which is right in the center of Japan there. And yeah, I think after a couple of places, I wound up bumping into Shinzan Roshi and his temple, and just seeing him and some of the folks that were practicing there, and just feeling so inspired by like their like how they were, and they seemed to really kind of have like some of the questions that I really had at the time. They just had not like a confidence, like a kind of confidence, a
Mm.
sense of kind of knowing, like
Mm.
knowing that things are okay, like really, um, yeah, just really being in their lives, and it just seemed like they had done a lot of work, and they had passed through a lot of things,
That you
and
didn't get a sense at the other places.
yeah, actually,
Mm.
and maybe one of the reasons Roshi was just so accessible. Like the other
Mm.
places, there was more of a, like you could sit in like the hall, the meditation hall, but you couldn't really interact with too many of the
I
people
see.
there, or
Yeah,
like the
yeah. Like
teachers.
formality and hierarchy and all that.
Yeah.
Mm. Mm.
So I just think just stumbling across Shinzan Roshi and the practitioners there, and there were some Westerners there as well. It just really it felt like I really wanted to learn more about it, and that's when I like started practicing meditation. I think I was
Mm.
probably 22 or so at that time. During that second year, on weekends, I would go to Gyokuryuji, and so like all of my weekends then became, it was like I had my week where I was
Mm.
teaching in the middle school, the elementary school, and a kindergarten a couple days a week. And then on the weekends, I would take the bus up to Seki. It's about an hour, maybe an hour and a half away. And then I would stay there. And I think it was really unique in Japan for me to be able to do that, to be
Right.
like in that location. At that point, actually, I went back to the US, and I went into a graduate program in Asian studies. There was like this sense of, okay, I'm starting to directly tune in to like having this meditation practice at the temple, and I wanted to. It was like, okay, what's the next step?
Mm.
I think it really struck me at that time, the difference between going and actually being and living in a place, and like practicing, like
Yeah.
doing the meditation stuff, versus like just reading about it. I did 2 quarters here, starting to learn a little bit, but at the same time, just feeling like this yearning to go back
Mm.
and to
Mm.
actually like to really be there. So I did kind of like 3 or 4 months. Yeah.
Yeah, gosh. So how long did you stay in Gyokuruji then at that point, from then onwards?
I think that was back in 2006. So I was at Gyokuryuji for like the majority of the time. That was kind of like my main home temple.
Mm.
And I think I stayed until 2013.
Mm.
Now I wasn't, so there was a big chunk of a few years there at the start where I was at
Yeah.
Gyokuryuji the whole time. And then there were a few years where I went up to practice there was a different kind of temple environment up on the Sea of Japan called Bukokuji. And that was a kind of a Soto Zen monastery. So I was there for a couple of years too, and then I spent the last year in Nagoya, um, kind of going to Gyokuryuji every like some of the weekends, but I was
Yeah.
teaching yoga.
You've mentioned to me before how Shinzan Roshi was very much like the kind of person that would throw you in at the deep end very, very
Mm.
sort of quickly, and he would create an environment in the temple which was like the deep end, you know.
Yeah.
So did he sort of allow you to sort of build up slowly in that, or
Mm.
did you really feel like it was? difficult people, difficult situations, like just deal
Hmm.
with it kind of from the beginning?
Yeah, gosh, that's a good question. I think, I think he did kind of let me build up a little bit with it. I know that like right at the start, when I was just getting there, I had it in my mind that like because his schedule, what was so unique about it was the schedule there, like there was chanting and meditation in the mornings, and then there was a period of chanting, kind of an optional meditation in the evenings,
Mm,
but and there was a tea time here or there, and some meals, but like the schedule was pretty loose, pretty
mm,
unstructured. So when I first went in there, it was like I wanted to meditate, right?
mm,
Quotes. Like I wanted to get like to be in the meditation hall meditating. And that's why I was there. And I was doing, my important spiritual practice, and please, get it like it's like, Roshi, get out of my way. I'm doing my important spiritual practice. Leave me alone, right? I remember I would sit like before lunchtime in the hall, and he would always be working. He had such an emphasis on like the work practice,
mm,
and he wanted us like he was like he wanted me to be into that, like to see the value in that. And I just didn't get it for so long. I would constantly be thinking like, okay, when I'm meditating, that's when I'm actually doing what I'm here to do. And then
mm,
when I was like out like in the fields or in the kitchen or something like that, I had this sense that it was a waste of time, and
ah,
it was something other than meditation.
mm,
So he never really, and you could feel it though, like when I would go and practice in the hall, you could feel a little bit of friction there from him. Like he never really like put it out there and like said anything directly, but you could feel like he wasn't really on board with that.
yeah,
He didn't want me to like get stuck in that sense of that's what my Zen practice was,
mm,
and like everything else wasn't it. Just to support the temple, the way I kind of contributed, like monetarily, was a few days a week I would go into a kindergarten to teach English, and it was similar. He wanted me to do that. You could tell like that's something, you got to do this. You got to get out into the community. You got to do this. And I didn't want that. It was like my practice. It was like it was just starting. I would get to this place where it was just starting to get peaceful. Like I
yeah.
was just starting to get to this place where it was
This
like I
is it.
felt,
This is
yeah, this
it.
is it.
Yeah,
I got it. It's mine. It's
yeah.
mine. Yeah, like super clear. I would feel clear. I would feel peaceful. I would feel like that's it. Okay, I got it. And then I would have to go in to teach these kindergartners for a day, and I would totally lose
Yeah.
that state. And it would be I was so upset about that, and so like angry, like resentful
Mm,
about it early on. Like he's
mm.
making me why can't I just be in this peaceful environment, and just just kind of leave me alone. Let
Get on
me
with my
let me
stuff. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
So when what did it shift slowly, or was there a moment where you sort
Hmm.
of realized what was happening, or?
I think it was a slow shift for
Mm,
me. I think I began to see like bit by bit. Um, and obviously now I'm so grateful for I recognize like what he was doing all of those
mm,
years now. But like at the time, I didn't get it a lot. Like it definitely took me, I was pretty slow to to understand like what he was doing. Like I really had a resistance to it
Did it take someone to sort of say some things, like little things, or
Yeah, I think so. And I began to see it in because I began to be able to carry it with me, like into the kindergarten and
mm,
into the into the being out in the field, in the garden, and in the yard, and weeding and cooking, and like going in and doing the grocery shopping. Like I started to see that I could bring that with me into those situations, and it wasn't about just being in the meditation hall. I mean, he would sprinkle that in to his talks and his conversations. Just you have to, Narikiru, just be with every situation. Every situation is it. So just really, he talked about it in terms of like a positive way, like
mm,
integrating everything. He didn't talk about it as like you don't want to just do this. He didn't like say it's bad. It's bad that you're doing it
mm.
this, or that one does it this way. It was kind of like inclusive and like integrative.
So then, I guess we sort of settle into our meditation practice. We realize that we're able to start to carry that into every day, that kind of
Hmm.
presence or the more like peacefulness or something like that into our other parts of our life. But yet there are
Hmm.
definitely some parts where it does not carry in, and then we have to
Hmm.
work harder and harder on that kind of those kinds of times. So what were the situations for you that seemed to be particularly difficult?
Right. Right. I do think he was a troublesome Buddha in a sense through like putting me through that.
Shinzan Roshi himself.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Definitely think that. Like, yeah. And like kind of a teacher figure, like.
Mm,
And then I think like just him again, just the way the monastery was, where he just let everybody. There was no like separation between like his Zen students, quote Zen students, and like the folks that were, because he had listed the temple in some of these kind of like a healing sanctuary place that people could come if they were struggling, in their family life, or if they had disciplinary problems, or they were working with like mental health issues. So he really had opened up the temple to anybody to just come and be there. And some people followed the schedule, and some people didn't. So definitely within that environment, there were people that very much like really challenged me. Yeah, like I remember one young man who he was really working with some mental health stuff. He really would like follow you around. I would get so, for whatever reason, I just got so frustrated with him, like
hmm
so, like, and it was probably along that same dimension of things that I was dealing with, as far as like I'm here to do this practice, and like he's distracting me from
Yeah,
this, or like he's not part of it, you know. Like that was my
yeah,
sense. Like he can't be a part of it. He's like leave me alone, and so he was just really kind of stuck to me and following me around, and like I tried everything I could to like change him, to like change the situations or the conditions, and like it never worked. Like it would never like resolve,
yeah.
and he wouldn't be met. It would never work if I tried to fix the external stuff. I had to like just really, when that stuff was coming up in me, like because of him, like he would bring that stuff, everything like to the surface, all of those emotions, those
Yeah,
um, those storylines, and and like the only way I could work with it, where I didn't like regret it later, or like regret my behavior, or um, like if I got mad at him, or if I said something, whatever it was that I
Yeah.
regretted to him. The only way it would work was when I really like was with myself and like creating space for that stuff to be and to be met and to be acknowledged and to be felt. It's like he was ushering this stuff out from like the depths of my being that nobody else, like he was unique in doing that because because of his,
Yeah.
how he was.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm sure that we could all probably resonate, with that, with
Yeah.
particular people, or even one person that just has a very special strength at being able
Mm,
to get your heckles up, or bring stuff
mm.
out that you really, really dislike. And
Yeah.
if you're in that kind of situation, most people, I suppose, exist in this kind of situation where they can just avoid it, or
Yeah.
they circumvent it in some way. But if you're in a situation, I mean, it might just be in the temple, or it might be at work, or it might be, you live with someone
Mm,
or whatever, where you just can't get away. Then what do you do
mm.
exactly?
Yeah, it really felt like that. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah. So, I mean, that sounds like it's a very important, formative, like, experience for you. So, um, you went on from Shinzan Roshi, and now you run your own sangha in Oregon.
Mm,
And
mm,
I wonder, how much of that sort of spirit of Shinzan Roshi and that approach, in creating these kind of rather troublesome situations for people that are going to be good for them, but are
mm.
tricky. How much of that comes into your sangha and your practice and your teaching, and right now?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I definitely think that like just seeing it all like in a positive way as like an opportunity for growing, like for us, for all of us, like in the sangha and myself too. Like just having that perspective where the difficult folks that arise for us are um like they're like our best teachers, or
Mm,
like an amazing opportunity that would never come around if they weren't there, that difficult
mm,
person, whoever they might be. It might be somebody actually like that you're meditating with, or it might be somebody like that's a family member or something.
mm, mm,
So yeah, I think we really try to just see it uh, as a real special opportunity to practice with that person, and how it's a like an advanced, it's a I mean, not advanced, but it's really tricky. And the
mm.
being able, like having that willingness to see that difficult person in your life in that way, like that's pretty, the fact that you can do that, that's difficult for a lot of people to
Right.
do.
Just to take that different perspective. Mm,
Yeah, yeah. So that in itself, like continuing to kind of have a culture around that, I think has been, I think we really appreciate that.
mm,
Um, and like sometimes, like specifically, like when people like share about that person, like to me individually, maybe in Sanzen, or like in a group, like just really talking about, okay, well, next time you're with them, like like how can you really, what's that going to look like for you, like as you're really tuning in to like what's like the stuff that comes up for you in that person's presence, like kind of asking questions along, like how are you working with it,
mm,
and like having a curiosity there. And when other people share about that, and you can hear like you know that, oh, it's not just you that's kind of got a difficult person in your life, but you're hearing from other folks in the sangha and different ways that they're like navigating it and feeling into it.
feels to
Yeah.
me like a really, really important part of all of this, and also I hope that this podcast um, illustrates
Mm,
the fact that everyone on every walk of life from anywhere has difficult people, and knowing that it's not just you that's got this person and no one else could be that difficult possibly, is
Yeah.
something we all have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. So it's been, yeah, your book has been fantastic for I know some of our, our folks. And, yeah, it's really given us like an opportunity to really kind of tune into those aspects as they come up for us,
Mm, mm,
so just really grateful for it, and the people that helped, that you kind of talked to about it, and the real life examples, really special stuff, I think.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Perhaps just before we finish, I mean, I wonder if there are any sort of more recent, or maybe even like some fairly minor examples of little things that we learn as we go along, and shifts and changes that happen, like like on a day-to-day
Hmm.
basis.
Hmm. Hmm. Gosh, well, I mean, just one thing coming up, I'm not sure if it hits on exactly what you're saying, but
Mm,
just like what I've been finding more and more, and because it's the summertime too, the image of, and I can't remember if Shinzan Roshi uses this image, or Daizan has, or you, the image of like a tomato plant, like being in the ground, and like being subject to all of the wind and the rain and the elements, and like getting buffeted around, and like that tomato plant, like really like sending its roots deep, and it turns into kind of like a rough, rugged kind of tomato plant, but it's like in the middle of everything, you know,
uh,
versus like kind of a tomato plant maybe put in like those ideal situations in a greenhouse. Like you've
uh,
got this tomato plant, you've got the temperature perfectly calibrated, you've got maybe the mist coming down at
yeah.
certain times. It's
Yeah.
like it's got those like all the sunlight's there. It's like got this perfect environment. And of course, it's going to turn into a nice tomato plant too. But like my sense, just along the way for myself and for other folks too, like that kind of rough, that kind of weathered tomato plant. There's something about that, that it seems like that's kind of like Shinzan Roshi's style, like at the
Mm.
at the monastery. Like he was a real like rough kind of tomato plant, and like I think his lineage too, that sense of kind of like a, just everything is part of it, being in the middle of all the elements, and just coping, like just dealing with it, and the
Mm.
strength that comes out of that.
Mm.
Um,
I
I
I wonder if perhaps the tomato plant that grows in perfect conditions may look fantastic but not taste that great, and the tomato that grows in like all the rough weather may look a bit gnarled but probably tastes fantastic.
Yeah, that's a
Maybe.
good. I didn't think of it that way, but yeah,
Mm.
totally. I bet. I bet. Yeah, we've got the a lot of the summer local markets going on now, the farmers markets, and
Mm.
yeah, they do taste great, don't they?
Yeah. Well, yeah, and in the analogy, I hope that that's kind of where we're all heading. We might look a bit gnarled
Mm,
on the outside, but
yeah.
well, we may not taste that great, but there's something a
Yeah,
bit
it's
more
not
going
it's
on.
not pretty. It often it ain't pretty. Yeah.
Right, right. Yeah. Well, fantastic. I mean, so nice to. I mean, it's very brief. I feel like it's very brief, and we could probably talk a lot longer. But really, really great to hear some of your experience, and some of which have brought you to where you are now, and now um, shepherding along a new sangha, or
Mm.
not so new, but another sangha. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming along.
Thanks, Mark. Really appreciate the chance to talk with you, and yeah, thanks so much for your book.
If you've enjoyed this podcast, please leave a review and a star rating on whatever platform you use. And do recommend it to others, because we all have difficult people in our lives, and each of them offers us a real opportunity for learning and growth. For more information about my book and what else I offer, head over to my website, markwestmaquette.co.uk. Thanks so much for listening. Bye for now.